funerals becoming a big issue, big business growth in this area. A lot of people are pre-planning their funerals now to have a little bit more of a celebratory aspect to it, to highlight the things they would like to do and who they would like to be there. Detail it if you have specific things. Maybe there's certain music that you would prefer. Do you want to be cremated? Where do you want to have your funeral? Where would you like your body to be interned? Disclaim, this is a funny one. I believe there's been 10 billion people have lived on the planet. I don't know if that's accurate, but something like that. No one has ever disclaimed. It's a joke, of course, but disclaim means I have been left an inheritance. And I say, no, I don't want that $1 million. I'll work at McDonald's for $6 an hour for the rest of my life and flip cheeseburgers. But that's what the actual term means, where somebody says, no, I don't want the inheritance, I disclaim. It's a joke. If you can find me somebody that will not accept free money, I give up and you get Jollibee and McDonald's. Spouse, pretty simple. The only complication here is someone may have a spouse from before because they were married and they never actually went and got their divorce, and now they may have a common law spouse. So, the complications, always. Codicil is when you make a will. Let's say you pay $500 to have it done because you were lazy, you didn't know what you were doing. If you know what you're doing, you shouldn't be spending more than probably $150, $200. Unless it's really complicated, well then of course you're going to spend more. But if you know what you're doing and you have the basic premise down, you just need somebody to kind of formalize the document. So you have a will and you want to make a minor change. Why? Maybe you got married. Maybe you got divorced. Maybe you decided to add somebody in your will or exclude somebody. So it's just a minor change. A codicil, that's the term to describe that. The rest of the will stays the same. And under assets, I believe the only thing you want to keep in mind here is every single thing that you can think of, write it down and be as descriptive as possible so there's never any doubt about anything. And that's probably the simplest advice at all. The more information you provide, the better, where everything is, and on and on and on. Your partnerships, people that owe you money, that is an asset. You may never get it, but you can always say, well, if all the people that owed me money would just pay me, I could retire. Well, that's all well and good, except you have to keep on working. Family law is an important one where even if somebody passes away and they don't leave money to their kids, as an example, that does not mean that that will is going to be acceptable because they have not lived up to family law requirements, which is support your child. If they're not finished schooling, maybe they need university. Keep your promises if you promise to support them after the fact. Somebody may finish university but then want to do a master's and a PhD, and if that was agreed upon, then that has to be dealt with. So that's the logic behind that. Family law, even if you have a will and you think, okay, that's fine, my will's done, no one can bother it, but you have to take into account family law, and that's only fair. This is an interesting one, redemption by advancement. I had promised, let's say I have $400,000 and I have 4 kids. I'm going to leave $100,000 to each one. But one child is in medical school and he needs money, so I give him $50,000 to pay for his medical school. And then I die. The other kids, and there have been court cases about this, could say, wait a minute, there was $400,000 available to be divided, $100,000 each. That one child who got the $50,000 towards his schooling, that is his gift in advance. So therefore his share should be reduced instead of reducing everybody's share across the board. And that's the term, that if you're given a gift in advance, so what you have to do in your will is, if you give the child number 1 that $50,000, you would have to put in a clause to say that that money was not given to that child as an redemption by advancement. That was a bonus for that child to become a doctor, and he will still share equally as was agreed upon before. And then at least you kind of clarified the potential fight. This term here is important, that Residual estate, it's important for two reasons. Number one, let's say you have $100,000 in your estate. A lot of people end up having a lot less in their estate than they think, partly because there's a lot of fees involved. Even though they're going to collect the insurance, and that means that the estate will get the cash, but there's so many other factors that have to be dealt with: funeral costs, paying off final bills, and on and on and on. Where this gets complicated, and there have been court cases here also, who is first in line? You should specify that. So let's just try and make a simple example. You've got $100,000, to keep it very simple. You say that I want to leave $50,000 to this charity, and you've got 5 kids, and you want to leave each one of the kids $10,000 as an example. So you got 50 to the charity and 10 times 5 kids, and that would be the 100,000, to keep it real simple. But it turns out after everything is all said and done, and taxes and debts and everything, you've only got 60,000 left in your estate. The charity will sue for the 50,000. And they have the legal staff to do this kind of thing, and if they get that, then you're left with 10,000 to be divided up among 5 kids. So they all get angry, and they take 2,000 each and give it to a lawyer to sue, and then they end up with nothing. So the moral of the story is you have to do 2 things. Specify the order of recipient in your estate plan once you get everything else paid and taken care of. And that will remove the ability of one well-off, well-organized group to try to take advantage of what they thought they were going to be left, to the detriment of your family. Second is you need to leave any estate residue. And this, I don't know if it happens that often on a percentage basis, but let's say after everything has been done, all the people have got what they received, your estate's got $20,000 left over. Well, who should receive this money? Now, why is it important? If it's $20,000, it's not a big deal. But what if it was $120,000? Then it would be deemed that that $120,000 was left intestate, which means as if you had no will. And then it would be divided up according to a family structure of who's first in line, who's second in line. You know, if there's a surviving spouse, she has first entitlement, and then kids. But what about adopted kids? So what you should put in your will is a clause saying any estate residue shall go to either this child, that child, equally to all kids, and that resolves the whole thing. So that's kind of an important little clause. Exculpatory provisions. Now, the logic of exculpatory provisions is, just imagine that you name your one of your friends as your trustee, as your executor. They have no practical skills in dealing with all of these issues, and you've got Revenue Canada there, the CCRA, that they can hold the executor personally liable if there's mistakes and there's not enough money to pay tax owing. And then they have to decide what investments to make, da-da-da-da-da. It's very complicated. So what some people will do is they will put in a clause removing liability for the trustee in the event of mistakes. Now, this is a two-edged sword. If you remove the liability, you may encourage them to take risk. So you have to try to balance everything out, but that's the basic premise. Part of the logic of this is a lot of people who are named as an executor will just go in and they'll revoke that. Revocation's a technical term, and say, I don't want this job. This is just way too complex. And of course the lawyers love this because then they get to take over, and estate lawyers charge an awful lot of money, like $300 an hour is probably not unusual. So that's the premise behind that.